Well, keeping active, winter, summer, whatever. We're in Canada. We like winter. I hope everybody goes to the Rideau Canal and do some skating there and la joie de vivre au Québec, la cabane à sucre, and also, of course, don't forget to play some hockey, shinny hockey, and indoor, outdoor. And so, why is activity so important? Let's learn a little bit more what we can do this winter.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Curnew. So, we're going to be talking to you a little bit about keeping active in the winter and specifically how does winter impact us and what are some exercises and strategies that we can do in the winter to stay active. Okay, so we all know that November means winter is upon us. And although the weather seems pretty nice lately, we all know that winter is creeping up on us in some way or another. And it can stick along a lot longer than we might hope it does come springtime. And winter in Ontario specifically can occupy anywhere from 4 to 6 months out of our year. So it's really important that we stay active and prioritize our physical health. And our goal for this webinar is to really help support you in that process. So, we are going to go through 4 sections today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about how winter impacts us. Then we're going to look at the pros and cons of exercising indoors versus outdoors during the winter. And then we're going to focus on some exercise ideas for staying active. And then we're going to provide some tips and tricks on how you can stay motivated during the winter. So, first off, we're going to discuss the impacts winter can have on us. So, an important note we wanted to mention is that aging is often associated with an increased sensitivity to the cold, which is completely normal. We want to make sure that we are staying safe throughout the winter season and protecting ourselves from things like hypothermia. Hypothermia is a condition in which your body temperature gets too low and is defined by anything below 35 degrees Celsius for the elderly population, which can lead to further complications such as heart attacks, kidney disease, and liver damage. To help protect ourselves from hypothermia, it's really important that we ensure we keep our houses properly heated. So I know some people like to turn down their heat in the cold to kind of help save money, but we want to make sure that we're not doing that too much because we don't want to overstress our bodies there. We also want to make sure that we're staying hydrated, well fed, and avoiding alcohol because that really helps to helps our body properly regulate our body temperature. We also want to make sure we're dressing appropriately for the weather. So hats, mitts, warm sweaters, warm coats, boots, scarves, things like that help bundle and keep you warm. And we're also wanting to work on building muscle, which is what we'll talk a little bit more about later, because that can minimize heat loss. Okay, so another thing we want to kind of keep in mind during the winter is our mood and mental health. So with winter, we experience colder and shorter days, and this shift can impact our mental health and mood. Seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, is a severe depression which happens during certain seasons of the year, particularly fall and winter. And it's important to note that SAD is a DSM-5 disorder, meaning that it must be diagnosed by a psychiatrist or other qualified clinician. However, a more milder form of it is called the winter blues, which has very similar symptoms. So some symptoms of SAD and the winter blues can include irritability, increased anxiety, low energy and no motivation, trouble sleeping and eating, which can include overeating, undereating, lack of sleep, or sleeping too much, negative emotions like worthlessness, hopelessness, intense sadness, and also a loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities or social withdrawal. Now, this phenomenon became so common that it actually ended up acquiring a diagnosis. So, why exactly does SAD and the winter blues happen? Research points to two main contributors, being the lack of sunlight and the shorter days, which occur during the late fall and winter time. So, reduced sunlight can actually impact your sleep and mood by disrupting your body's production of melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, and circadian rhythms, which is also known as our biological clock, because they are physical, mental, and behavior changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. So, disruptions to these can really impact our sleep and in other ways impact our mood as well. Additionally, less sunlight can also lead to a drop in serotonin, which is our happy hormone, which controls happiness, mood, and anxiety, and low vitamin D, both of which have been linked to depression or some symptoms of depression. So, symptoms of depression can actually make it pretty challenging for some people to exercise. Although it might be difficult, exercise has been proven to improve symptoms of depression, and it is actually a suggested form of treatment for conditions like SAD and the winter blues because it can help bring your mood back up. It is important to remember that physical activity and exercise is really important for your physical health, but it's also very important for your mental health. And if you are struggling at all with your mental health, it's really important that we encourage you to talk to someone about it, because this can be something that can be treated and helped with through other means. But exercise is one thing that can help you combat that. Moving on, the cold weather can also have an impact on our physical activity through other means, like cold weather, shorter days, and the holiday season. So, cold weather can impact our physical activity, as one study found that extreme weather is a barrier to participating in exercise, which included conditions like low temperatures and snow, both of which very likely and almost always happen during the winter, especially in Ontario. Additionally, Wagner et al. Found that people facing adverse weather conditions like snow and ice have about 3.34 higher odds of delaying exercise. So an example of that could mean if I was planning on going to the gym at 6:30 in the morning and I trot on outside with all my gym stuff and I realize that the snow pile came late at night and I am barricaded into my driveway and I can't really get out, and my gym might not be in walking distance for me to safely go there. So I ultimately might decide maybe I'll forgo exercise today. Things like that and those contributors can cause delays in our exercise routine and can really impact a routine that we might have had in place during the warmer months. Additionally, shorter days can pose a barrier to leaving the house. So, for example, I know some people aren't that comfortable driving when it's dark out, and especially since the darkness kind of comes upon us at about 5 p.m. now, it might mean that you're only restricted to really exercising or leaving your house during those kinds of during the day, which can be difficult if you have commitments like school, work, or volunteering. So those kind of shorter days can really impact our ability to get out and exercise. And finally, the winter season also means that holiday season might be approaching for some people. Holiday season can be really busy and stressful, and sometimes we put aside things like our regular exercise routine. But it's really important to kind of note that doing that can impact our health. So, for example, one study found that following winter holiday season, there was a significant increase in hospital admissions due to heart failure, which they actually attributed to factors like the higher emotional stress and less exercise. So we talked a lot about kind of how winter can impact our ability to exercise. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of exercising in the winter. So when the winter season comes upon us, what kind of benefits do we see from exercising? Well, we see the exact same benefits that we see all year round, but they might become especially helpful during the winter to combat some of the things that we mentioned about struggling with. So, for example, improving strength, balance, and muscles can be beneficial because it can help prevent things like falls, or can help improve your ability to navigate slipperier walkways if it hasn't been properly maintained. Additionally, lower blood pressure and controlling your weight can really help ensure that we are maintaining good health, specifically heart health, to prevent any aggravated stress, or really ensure that we're maintaining good and healthy habits during the winter time. Also, relieving stress and improving mood can help combat the heightened emotions of the holidays, plus the symptoms of SAD and winter blues that we discussed before. And finally, exercising, specifically outdoors, can help us increase our exposure to sunlight, which can be helpful in relieving the symptoms of SAD and winter blues as well. So we talked a little bit about the benefits of exercise. But what happens if you go, I'm not really going to exercise during the winter, or I'm going to kind of postpone my exercise to when the weather's a bit nicer? Well, that means our muscles are inactive. And when that happens, something called muscular atrophy, which is the loss of muscle, can occur. I like to think about this through an analogy. Think about it as you're getting rid of things in your house or you're getting rid of clothes in your closet. Typically, the way you go is have two piles, maybe things that you wear often and use often, and things you don't wear or don't use often. And the things you don't use often, you'll donate to Value Village or give away to a friend or sell, or you'll get rid of it while you're keeping the things that you use. The same thing happens with our muscles. If we're not using our muscles, we're going to end up losing our muscles. The most common cause of muscle atrophy is physiological atrophy, which means that your muscles are not being used enough for extended periods of time. And people over the age of 65 are more vulnerable to muscle atrophy, which can lead to symptoms like weakness, trouble balancing, issues with daily tasks, which could include opening jars or using a can opener or carrying groceries, and things like muscle twitching and cramps. Now, we want to really emphasize that it doesn't mean your body doesn't deserve a break or you don't deserve a rest from exercise. You don't have to do it every single day, but it really is important to understand how exercise can and should be a part of your regular routine and how long your body can actually go without working your muscles. One study found that older men who completed strength training for over an 8-week span lost 25% of their muscle gains after only 2 weeks of stopping exercising. So that shows that it really is important that we stay consistent if we're wanting to gain these muscles, because if let's say you worked all during the summer months to build muscle and then you say, it's winter time, I'm going to take some time off, you could be sacrificing all of that work you had put in during the summer, which we want to make sure we're not doing, and we want to keep improving rather than setting ourselves back like that. So that's why it's really important that during these winter months, we stay active just the same as we were during the warmer months.
That's really important, Haley. Also, if you just backtrack to that slide again, is that if you get sick and you go for bed rest in 2 weeks, you lose 25% of your muscle mass or your muscle strength. So this is actually very crucial. And as we're going to talk about something called METs and how much you can function, is that if you're barely functioning on a regular basis, you can just get through your day, you're short of breath, you don't feel great, you huff and puff, just doing normal housework and getting around the house and cooking and cleaning, is that you get sick, you lose 25% of your muscle mass or muscle strength, you can't go home. You might have to go to a nursing home. So it's really important that you get your muscles stronger, so you build them up, so you build muscle strength so you don't fall and break things. Number two, when you get sick, that you're able to go home. And that's not what I see. A lot of people are not functioning. They barely function on a good day and they get sick and now they can't function properly. And it takes a long time to build that up. And so I think this is actually something really key. So thank you for sharing that. And as Jerry and other people have taught me, is that at the age of 30 years of age, your muscle mass goes down. And a 30-year-old compared to a 70-year-old, you can lose up to 50% of your muscle mass. That's a lot of strength. And so the way to do this is that it gets worse and worse. 50 takes a big hit, 60, 65. So we lose a lot more muscle mass as we get older. That's why it's actually more crucial for us to exercise more as we get older. And if we're going to take the winter off, well, I'm not so sure that's the right thing to do, but tell us more.
All right, so that brings us to exercising indoors versus outdoors. What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks to each? And when we have this conversation, we also have to talk about what METs are and really, what is a MET? And so, before we talk about exercising, we want to discuss this particular concept because a MET is basically just a ratio of your working metabolic rate to your resting metabolic rate. And so the purpose of a MET is that it helps describe how intense an exercise is. A light activity can be classified as less than 3 METs, a moderate activity is between 3 and 6 METs, and a vigorous activity would be anything over 6 METs. And on your stress test, you should aim for a METs level greater than 12. If you do less than 5, you're actually at risk of needing a nursing home or rehab if you get sick. And so fitness is the key and a very important factor in order to keep out of the nursing home. Being at rest is considered to be one MET, and different exercises will have different levels of METs. For instance, a housework like cleaning or sweeping would be about 3.5, just over the moderate activity range, but things like running and circuit training are well over 6, and those would be classified as a sort of vigorous activity. One study actually found that after having participants complete stress tests, those in the low fitness group had a fitness level of less than 7.9 METs, and these individuals were found to have a 70% greater risk for all-cause mortality and a 56% greater risk for cardiovascular heart disease. And therefore, that sort of illustrates the importance of trying to have a high METs level. And ideally, our goal would be to aim for 500 minutes per week through exercise. For example, this could mean going for a brisk walk 30 minutes each day, 5 days a week, or completing circuit training for 20 minutes 3 times a week. So hopefully these exercises and strategies that we discussed in this webinar can help you achieve this particular goal.
So let's just pause for a second here. Let's go back here. So MET is something that we can actually calculate or estimate. So we do this, we call a stage 1 stress test. We put this mask on your face and we take oxygen. Oxygen is converted to energy. So basically, about 5 cc's of oxygen octane per kilogram per minute equals 1 MET. It's your basic metabolic rate is 1 MET. And you're seeing is that I think in METs a lot of times, and you should think as well, I think people need to be able to do about 5 METs of activity to actually live on their own. That includes house cleaning, making your bed, being able to carry groceries and go shopping on a regular basis. And again, as we talked about, is that once you put yourself at bed rest or you get sick, within 2 weeks, you will lose 25% of your reserve, your ability to your muscle production. And this actually also was done on young people. You see these young people, they're right here, and they're all young, healthy people who have lots of horsepower. We take a young, healthy person, you put you at bed rest for 2 weeks, you lost 25% of your fitness. 25% is gone. You can rebuild that. It takes a lot longer to rebuild. It gets harder as you get older in life. And there's actually data, and you mentioned people less than 7 METs having a higher mortality. A number I remember, keep in my brain, for every 1 MET increase in activity, mortality of heart disease can fall by 10%. Let's say you start off with a fitness level, let's say about 5 METs. You bring it up to 8 METs of activity. You feel better, you're stronger, you have more reserve, but there's actually a potential reduction of cardiovascular events by 30%. Now, the data is not based on what we call randomized controlled trials, but observational data or people who actually are exercising. And so to me is that one of the pillars of health that we've forgotten about is activity. As we get older, we're losing muscle mass. The 2 best ways of preserving or building some of that back up is activity and adequate protein in your diet. So, we talk about 0.8 milligrams per kilogram for protein, up to 1.2 to 1.3 grams of protein per kilogram. Most of us in North America get enough protein. Most of us in North America do not get enough exercise. So, if you whether you eat chocolate milk or when you get your whey protein, whatever, that to me is a little bit okay. But the most important thing is activity. So look at those numbers. And when you do a stress test, and that's why we're doing a lot of stress tests right now. What's really happened during the pandemic is we lost our fitness. I went back to playing squash, and my squash buddies were so concerned with my health that they called my wife and said, "Is Dr. Curnew sick? He's not doing that well." And I thought I was doing some fitness things during the pandemic. I wasn't doing as enough as my buddies were, and I lost a lot of fitness. I haven't gotten it back. I got some of it back. I'm going to work hard and keep working harder in this area here. So, so please think about how activity plays a role. If you have arthritis, activity helps your joints. You got to do it smartly. So look at these numbers. And my wish for everybody is to be able to do over 12 METs of activity. Now, it's not realistic for everybody, but increasing your MET by about 3 is very, very possible. So just take a picture of this and pause and look at this. giving perspective, Lance Armstrong can do 25 Mets, but he cheats. And I think is that if you're starting off at 5 Mets, you can get to 8 Mets by a proper exercise training program. If you're doing 5 Mets of activity, the chance of you going to a nursing home is getting close. And I see many people at low levels. So right now, in this year, in 2023, I want everybody to get a stress test or think about and see how your fitness is, and do some sort of fitness test. One way is a stress test. One way is just a 6-minute walk. Another way is just doing some I don't know. And some people, I'm going to do a 5-kilometer road race, and but I'm gonna walk slowly. I'm gonna check my time. So just have some fun doing it. It can be a lot of fun in this area. So this is a key slide. You want to be at a higher horsepower, and that to me is Mets. Get moving. I guess you heard this over and over again. The best benefit of exercise is going from something from nothing, and then you have to get from something to plenty more. And you can do it, and have fun doing it. We'll show you some examples. Tell us more.
All right, and that brings us to specifically talking about, exercising indoors, exercising outdoors. What are the pros? What are the cons of each different, type of exercise? And so we're going to start off with outdoors. So, talk about some of the benefits of exercising outdoors. The main thing is that you're able to be in the outside environment. You get to experience the natural features, the fresh air, the sunlight. All of that can do a bunch of things, not only in your own mind in terms of, your positivity. It can also lead to the release of dopamine, which can lead to positive moods and affections, which can also help you in the long run. In terms of some cons, when you're exercising outdoor, you may be more isolated unless you have a partner. It can be hard to socialize with others compared to if you were inside and, for instance, a gym where there are other people constantly around you, which can make it harder to put in, your maximum effort. A lot of people find that they're able to do more work or sort of train harder when they're working with other individuals. And because of that, working or exercising outdoors may be a little bit harder to keep yourself on track, but we'll give you some tips to help with those issues in a couple slides. You also have a bit of a concern about safety. We also should be careful when we're exercising outdoors. As we mentioned, you're a little more isolated. There's a little more, there are less people around you, and as such, you should be a little more careful with your environment. And yeah, moving to the indoors portion of this slide, one of the best benefits to exercising indoors, especially if you work within a gym, is that there's better technology. There's better equipment that allows you to work on specific muscle groups if you're really focusing on, improving in certain areas. Having that better technology and equipment can go a long ways into improving your gains, as opposed to if you work outside or you exercise outside. It may be a little harder for you to actually make specific improvements to specific things that you want to do. Another benefit would be teamwork. When you work out indoors, such as in a gym, you can work with others who push you harder to do more, to sort of push yourself to do better, which can lead to better health benefits as well. In terms of the cons, one of the biggest ones is cost. If you work out in a gym, if you have to, work on transportation, membership fees, these are all important factors and barriers that may prevent somebody from actually going to a gym consistently. If you work as well, it may impose some time differences and barriers that prevent you from being able to go to the gym consistently. And so sometimes being able to go outside and just go for a run is much more convenient than having to go drive or bus to a gym. Also comparison. I mean, a lot of people are working out. If you work out in a gym, there are also a lot of people working out with you. And as such, people become self-conscious. That's another one of the cons that, you may experience, because a lot of people don't necessarily want to compare themselves to other people. And so it can be somewhat demoralizing if there are other people, who are, more advanced. But it's also important to recognize the fact that, we're all on our own journey. And we shouldn't really have to compare ourselves to other people. We should really be focusing on ourselves. And so I think those kinds of things can be sort of remedied by the right mindset.
Awesome. So now we'll give you some ideas for outdoor and indoor exercises. So we'll start with outdoor exercises. So the easiest or most convenient outdoor exercise would probably be going out for a walk, or a slow jog or a run. You want to be cautious in the winter though, because there can be ice around. So you just want to be really careful. There's also you can also go hiking if you have any safe trails that are nearby. That can also be something fun to do in the winter. There are also lots of winter sports and activities. So stuff like skiing, skating, snowboarding, there's sledding, and these are all really fun sports to engage in the winter. But again, all of these have a pretty high rate of falling. So if that's a concern for you, definitely keep that in mind as well. But yeah, so you can go to the next slide. Okay, so now we have some safety tips for exercising outdoors. So first and foremost, you want to make sure you're dressed appropriately. So this means dressing in layers and in appropriate materials such as wool, nylon, and polyester. These are all good for the winter. You want to try to avoid cotton because this can get wet pretty easily and it'll stay wet. So this will make you really cold if you're staying outside. And again, you want to make sure you're protecting all your extremities. You want to protect your head, hands, feet, ears, nose, all those places that get cold. And in the winter, our skin can also tend to get dry. So some moisturizer is always a good idea. And again, you want to watch out for ice, especially black ice. If you're exercising during the evening time or at night, you might not even see the ice on the sidewalk. And so you really want to be careful about that. So to avoid that, it's recommended to exercise on well-plowed areas such as salted roads and sidewalks. And yeah, and then you also want to be aware of the early sunset, like we mentioned earlier, because the sun does go down pretty early. So a good tip is to wear bright colors if you're going to go out later in the evening, and that way you'll still be visible. And the last point is that it's really important to do a warm up, and this is always important, but especially in the winter. And this will help loosen up any stiff joints and increase blood flow to muscles, and this will help prevent any injuries. Okay, so now moving on to indoor exercises. So if you don't feel like going outdoor in the winter, some alternative indoor activities that are common to outdoor activities include walking around the house, going up and down the stairs, running on a treadmill. You can also go to the mall and walk around. And there's also cycling inside. And some sport alternatives include table tennis, squash, badminton. If you have access to a recreation center that has these sports, they're also really fun to engage in. Okay, and some more examples of indoor activities include yoga, jumping ropes, dancing, hula hooping. There's also weightlifting. And so you can also do exercises with just your body weight, and you can also go to a gym. So there are lots of free resources online, such as YouTube. There are exercise blogs and websites and other free online platforms. And actually on Dr. Curnew's YouTube channel, we have some exercise tutorials that you could watch, and there's some great exercises that you can do at home. And there are also some organizations such as the YMCA, which offer free dance, yoga, and other exercise sessions online and in person.
Awesome. So now that we gave you a bunch of examples of exercises, it's important to remember how much exercise we actually need. So adults need 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity and about 2 days of muscle strengthening activity per week. So, like we mentioned, weightlifting is an example of an indoor activity, which is a form of resistance training. Resistance training is a form of physical activity designed to improve muscular fitness by exercising a muscle or muscle group against external resistance. One study found that older adults who regularly lift weights, either with or without aerobic exercise, showed significant reductions in all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality. Specifically, weightlifting was associated with a 9% lower risk of both all-cause and CVD mortality. Additionally, those who participated in both weightlifting and aerobic exercise for the recommended amount of time, so that 150 minutes and 2 days a week, actually had a 41% lower risk of all-cause mortality. And this is why it is really important that we continue to work on our muscles, because it can not only help us become stronger, it can also be protective for our health. So with that being said, we thought that it might be fun to kind of take a little bit of a break from us talking and telling you information and kind of do some exercises together. So we're going to be doing 3 exercises together, and we're going to do them only one time. So we're going to do it 8 times, but only the exercise 1 time. But you can complete this circuit on your own time. You can do it in 2 to 3 sets of doing the exercise 8 to 10 times, with a rest time of about 30 to 60 seconds in between each set. So for these exercises, you can use a resistance band, a weight or dumbbell, a water bottle, or you can use like tin cans of food or maybe a jug of something to kind of help get the resistance we want. So I'm gonna kind of, don't mind my bedroom at the moment. I'm gonna move out of the way so that we can begin exercising. Let me just rotate the camera here. I have my water bottle because I don't have resistance bands here, but that's okay. Water bottles work just as well. But we're first gonna start off doing a tricep press. So for a tricep press, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring the weight behind our head like so, with our elbows bent. And what we're gonna do is we're going to extend our arm, but not completely, because we don't want to lock our elbows, but just slightly before a lock, and then bring it down. And that's 1. So we're going to do that 7 more times. 2, 3, and remember to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. 4, and you want to feel it in the back of your arm there, because that's where it is. 5, 6, 7, last one, 8. So while we do our quick rest, we really want to emphasize that it's actually really important that we take these rest periods between exercises, because that is the way our muscles are going to be able to carry through the strength of the weight. So if I'm using, like, let's say a 15-pound weight for my first set of exercises, I want to be able to use that 15-pound weight for my second and third, which means I need to let my arms relax a bit before we continue with that weight. So that's a really important thing to remember. But we're going to move on to our next exercise, which is our squat. Now, again, I don't have resistance bands, so I'm going to be holding my weight or water bottle at my chest here. But if you have resistance bands, you can put them, like the picture shows here, right above your knees. And that's a really great way to kind of build resistance. And I have a fun little chest that you can't see, but it's behind me. But you can use a chair, and that's going to help me know when I'm to stop squatting, because if you squat too low and you're not in proper form, you can really hurt your back, and we don't want that. We want to make sure we're only feeling it in our legs and making sure we're feeling it all throughout our legs and not straining our back with it. So what we're going to do is put your feet shoulder width apart and try to make sure that your knees are not going so much over your toes, and you're just going to squat back. And when I feel my my bum on the chest, I'm going to extend up, and that's 1. And that's 2. You can also squeeze your glutes at the top too. That's 3. That's 4. Remember to breathe. 5. You should be feeling it all throughout your legs. Squats are a great exercise for your whole leg. I lost count. I think it's 6. 7. Last one. 8. And while we take our next rest, I really want to emphasize that in order for our muscles to properly recuperate after we work them one day, we want to give it about 24 to 48 hours times rest. So what that could mean is, my biggest thing is, what I do is I go to the gym and work my upper body. And then the next day I might only focus on cardio. So I might go on the treadmill the whole time, or I might go on the bike or something like that. And the next day I'll work my lower body. So that gives my upper body that 48 or 24-hour time in order to recuperate, so that my muscles aren't being stressed so much that I'm going to be in pain, but I'm stressing them enough that they're going to build muscle. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. And then the last exercise we're going to do is we're going to do our bicep curl. So if you have a resistance band, you can kind of wrap it around your feet and hold it like the picture shows. But because I have a water bottle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it kind of hold it like this. If you have two, you can also hold one in one arm and one in the other, but I only have one with me. So we're just going to hold it, and then we're going to bend our arms, bringing them up, and then going back down. And that's one, so we're going to do about 7 more here, okay? 2, 3, I'll keep count this time. 4, 5, 6, 2 more, 7, 1 more, and 8. Awesome. So awesome work, everyone. I'm glad we're able to take a nice little exercise break, which we'll get a little bit into and bring up again. But what we also want to acknowledge is that you don't only have to do strength training through lifting weights and doing things like that. Dr. Curnew actually shared with us some pictures of him rock climbing yesterday, and see him going up. So rock climbing is a great strength training exercise because it's using your own body to help increase your weight there. So what that means is, let's say you're going from like this blue one down at the bottom to the red one higher. You're going to both use your legs to push and your arms to pull, which is working pretty much your whole body. And if you get good enough at it, it becomes, and you do it really quick, it becomes both a strength training exercise and an aerobic exercise, which is a great other option and alternative to things like weightlifting if that's not up your forte.
You know, it's funny is that if you just backtrack a little bit over here, so I want to thank a bunch of people for getting me involved in this. I don't like using weights and things of that nature. I probably do a lot of aerobic stuff more than anything. And but what I also learned to the last while, you showed very elegantly, is that for longevity, you need to do both resistance, which is some form of bands or weights, or trying to lift up your body, I guess. What is a bigger weight for me anyway. Trying to get skinnier helps me as well. So I'm having fun because Carl, one of our patients, introduced me to this a year or two ago. And I stopped going. Then my son Josh at the bottom there, who's much fitter than I am, wanted to do this. So we're starting to do this. So I think this is really a fun thing to do. You know, we talk about indoor versus outdoor. Just I want to remind people is that you're 35 times less likely to catch COVID outside compared to inside. So if you feel problematic, wear a mask. And I'm seeing too many people wear a mask, leaving their nose uncovered, which is really doesn't much protection. I'll remind you that you should pinch your nose, keep your hands clean, change your mask when you feel it's appropriate. A surgical 2 or 3 layer mask is much better than a cloth mask and an N95 equivalent. So if you're going on a plane ride, right now there's unfortunately a lot of COVID around. So think about lots of people to wear your mask, and it really helps protect you and protect other people as well. So I don't know why we're so anti-mask right now. I think masking is a simple way to protect yourself and to protect other people. You have more protection from other people than you are for yourself right now. So it protects against the common cold, influenza, RSV infection, and of course, COVID. So, and rock climbing is fun. And I try to pick the times when people are not there. So it's either first thing in the morning or end of day. And I thank my son, I thank Carl as well. And I keep meaning to go with Carl more often, but I finished too late for him. And this is fun. You can do the hard ones or the easy ones. So please find something that you can enjoy. And you know what? This is the best antidepressant I know of right now. I feel better afterwards. So I'm not a good climber, but I'm having fun trying. We also learned to wear long pants because you scratch your legs and to protect your ankles and things of that nature. And give it a shot. Try something new. Go ahead. Tell us more. So I think here's a fun activity that I've learned.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Curnew. And speaking of Dr. Curnew, I want to give him a little bit of a shout out as we kind of discuss aerobic exercise, because that's also really important that we get into that. So back in October, Dr. Curnew actually completed the Toronto Half Marathon, and he did it in a time of 2 hours, 42 minutes, and 28 seconds, which, using a fun nifty-difty calculator I found online, that means he averaged about 7 minutes and 21 seconds per kilometer, and he finished in a good time. So it was 7,973 out of 10,461 racers, but only 8,610 finishers. So Dr. Curnew, did you want to share a little bit about your experience running this?
So I actually ran as Carrie Gibbs, my wife. She was supposed to run with my son, and this is her worst run ever. So I believe brought down her time. But my son wanted to do this, and I think my son did like an hour and 40 minutes or something. And there, you see Conrad, he actually does real triathlon. So I only did actually one other run this year. I did a mini triathlon where it's just a 400-meter swim, 10-kilometer bike ride, and 2.5-kilometer run. So that's my only running it all year. And because I'm taking up playing gliding and playing squash and playing some tennis, I just don't run. And so I figured, go for it. And I wasn't really planning to finish it. But I want to thank the organizers from the Toronto Marathon, and especially all the people out on that day. Is that it was so much fun. People with their signs and cheering on. I think some of my favorites were, "Can I call you an Uber?" Oh, you only have 2 kilometers left. Sorry, I can't read. It's 18. And it was just really a fun event. So I encourage people to finish to try something. Now, in one sense, is that the reason I finished. And there were some people there was maybe 1,000 people behind me, but the reason I look so good here is because a lot of people just didn't enter the race, I guess, and didn't do it. So those are the non-finishers. And but really is that it is so much fun. And it's you mentioned things like vitamin D and being outside and just a joyful event. So I hope you find something. And is that I finished close to last in many of these events, but at least I participate and have some fun. And so the only person I'm competing against is myself. And really my goal is just to finish and still have knees and bodies left. And same thing with rock climbing. I do the easy ones. So please find this pillar of health. It's so important. I'll just share one personal story right now is that my dad had diabetes, my brother has diabetes. I don't have diabetes. I have high cholesterol. My cholesterol is lowered. I take the highest dose of either Lipitor, 80 milligrams, atorvastatin, 80 milligrams, or Crestor, rosuvastatin, 40 milligrams, and 10 milligrams of ezetimibe. I'm thinking of taking that injection drug to lower my cholesterol further, because the lower, the longer, you're better off. I have Alzheimer's disease in my family. My dad had it, my mother had it. My brother's starting to develop it, and he's lost his ability to work right now. So will I have it one day? Probably, but I can actually delay it substantially by activity. The good thing is I finished last in marathons and other places like that. But when it comes to healthcare, I spent my life figuring out how to make you live healthier too. So and be healthier. So I can help you live longer and prosperous if you want to. So please find a way to adding activities and using the right medications at the right time, right place. And just this business, I'll do it later. And if you take a break over the winter time, you're going to lose, a lot of your muscle reserve and have fun, and I'm very proud of finishing last, and I'll finish last with you. One of the triathlons I did way back when, there was this older lady And I'm not that young myself. I'm 63, but this was one of her first events, and so we just finished towards the end together, and it was just so nice just chatting with her. She never did anything like this, and she decided what she's going to do, and she was so proud of herself. I was so proud to watch her do this. So if I can do it, you can do it, and we all should do something. And you can decide how you want to do this, but please, please incorporate activity into your life. It's you feel better. You'll ache, you're sore. I get it, but you'll live so much longer and better. And surround yourself with people around you who want to do this. Please, please do this. Tell us more.
All right, so that brings us to how we stay motivated in the winter, because one of the most challenging aspects of actually being active in the winter is finding ways to stay motivated. So we're going to give you some ways that you can help resolve that. All right, so the first one is very, very clear: setting goals and making a plan. One of the most important aspects of any of staying motivated at all is just by having a specific plan to follow or a goal to achieve. That's very, very important. Knowing where you'd like to go in terms of, what kind of progress you want to make, can help you figure out how much you want to dedicate to achieving that goal. And recognizing the fact that it may be more difficult to stick to your workout plans in the winter, it's important to make sure that we're setting goals that are very specific, that are measurable, that are achievable, that are relevant, and that they're timely. So we can use the acronym SMART for that. And by doing so, we can ensure that we're in the best position to actually follow up on those goals. And by specifying what you hope to achieve and making it realistic, it can make it easier for you to stick to that plan. So for example, if your goal is simply to stay more active throughout the week, you may want to specify what kind of exercises you want to engage in, like the ones that we showed you earlier, which days of the week you want to do them on, and what kind of time of day you want to do them, and what duration you want to do them, to make sure you have a plan to follow in the future. Moving on, another thing you have to do is stay accountable. Finding ways to keep yourself accountable is another aspect of staying motivated. Through accountability, you can make sure that the choices that you're making are in line with the goals that you hope to achieve. And some ways that you can do this is to set a specific time in the day that you're dedicated to exercising, keeping some sort of diary or tracker, tracking your weight if achieving a certain weight is a goal of yours. And another effective way is to find some sort of a partner or some sort of a friend that can help work as an accountability partner, who can check in with you every once in a while to make sure that you're actually completing your plan, and that's who's there to motivate you to stay on track, and someone who's also trying to stay active, so you two can actually work together to achieve each other's goals, and so that you can motivate each other to stick to your plans.
Yeah, and the third thing is exercise snacks. And so sometimes a full 30-minute to an hour session of exercise might not be possible with our busy schedules. However, that doesn't mean that you have to skip exercise completely. So to stay motivated and make sure you're still getting in some form of activity in your day, you could try to incorporate something called exercise snacks. So exercise snacks are essentially a way for you to embrace any opportunity in your daily routine to exercise, even if it's a very short period of time, like 30 seconds to a minute. For example, it could be if you just bought groceries, you can carry those bags to your car instead of using a grocery cart. Or if you're walking from one place to another, you could try walking a little faster, like a brisk walk. Rather than taking the elevator, you can take the stairs. So these are all just little ways or exercise snacks that you can incorporate into your daily routines. You can also incorporate exercise snacks by doing short exercises between long sessions of sitting down. This can help you stay active and boost your energy and even improve your long-term health. And the last part is to make it fun and convenient. So in order to stick to your routine and stay motivated, it has to be fun, right? It has to be enjoyable and convenient rather than a tedious task on your to-do list. So to do this, you need to find ways to incorporate the things you enjoy. So this can be in many different ways. For example, if you really enjoy being outdoors, then exercise can take on the form of walks or hikes, as long as the weather permits that. If you're busy doing chores for the day, then exercise can take on the form of cleaning your house. You can play some music in the background, have fun with it. If you need to watch or enjoy being with your children or grandchildren, you can spend time with them and try to be active with them. Or you can walk your dog. These are all ways to try and make exercise fun. So ultimately, it's important to set a goal for yourself that's realistic and specific, and make sure that you incorporate it into your lifestyle in a way that it's fun and convenient, so that it's easier for you to be consistent with. So after all, taking care of yourself and your well-being should not be a chore, but rather a lifestyle choice.
And it's really important to know that we at the clinic can really help you out, and our goal is to really help you in your health journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some resources that we can provide you to kind of help you out during the winter time. And first is our new website. So we have the website there. It's www.drcurnewhealth.com. And a big thank you to Simon and Stephanie for leading the website and really making it what it is. It's a really awesome resource to kind of have everything Dr. Curnew right at your fingertips there. So under features, there's things like our YouTube channel, there's information regarding appointments, there's contact pages, there's ways to sign up for groups, etc., etc. There's a lot of great ways to have a bunch of information, so I really encourage you to check it out if you haven't. And next, we also wanted to acknowledge that Dr. Curnew also on Mondays and Thursdays at around 6 a.m. typically, Dr. Curnew along with some other folks will do the stairs together. And it's another great opportunity to have support while you are on your exercise journey. And it's a great view, as you can see. So it's definitely not a sight for sore eyes as you're walking up those stairs, but it's a great opportunity to kind of have some support while you exercise. And along with that support, we also have our Wednesday group, which is run by some volunteers, such as Jerry, who couldn't be here tonight, but it's our motivation, mindfulness, and moving group who meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Zoom. And this group is a great community of dedicated patients who love working together and supporting one another. And we have the sign up link here that we can also, that is also available on our website. So drcurnewhealth.com, or you can speak to Dr. Curnew during your next visit if you are interested in participating. This group also offers individual support as well, where you can chat one-on-one with a volunteer, which can really help you kind of work towards your goals if, let's say, you want more individual support and individual guidance. And last but not least, we have our YouTube channel, which you can find by going on to youtube.com and typing Dr. Curnew into the search bar. And once there, you can click on his channel, and there's a load of amazing content and health information there that you can watch. There's videos of different lengths. So if you want a webinar, they all go here. Or if you want any fun little videos, they're all on here as well. It's a great resource, not only for your physical health and like fitness health, but also for other aspects of health like medication, cardio health, other awesome opportunities. But specifically, our group has worked to create some exercise videos, which we had mentioned previously. And you can find those through the link on the screen. So if you just go to the next slide, perfect, thank you. Or by going to the playlist tab. So you can see the playlist tab up there. And under the playlist tab, there's a playlist called Exercise Club or pre-recorded. And that's a great way to have all our exercise videos all together. So as I was demonstrating with my water bottle, some weight exercises, we have a great video that was posted up in August that is revolving around workouts with a water bottle. So they're really convenient at-home workouts to help get you started. If, let's say, the weather stops you from going to the gym, you can just turn on Dr. Curnew's YouTube channel, and we're here to help you out and get your workout going despite that. But yeah, so that kind of concludes everything we have for you tonight. We really want you to take home the message that your health is really important, and your physical health and physical activity should be a priority regardless of the conditions going on with the weather and what's going on with holiday season and things like that. It's really important that you stay active, and we are here to help you with your health journey. And as always, you can connect with us through our YouTube channel or new website. Or if you have any questions or would like to join any groups as well, you can email drcurnew232@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to help you out there. But that's all from us. Dr. Curnew, do you have any closing notes?
Well, first of all, thank you all for putting this together. And to me is that it's it's sad to see so many people in a bad place right now. But one way to get you in a better place is to be outside, to exercise, and you can exercise safely inside too in many circumstances. It's just the right thing to do for so many reasons. And I think one of the reasons that people enter a nursing home is that they can't cope at home, they're too weak, or they're falling. And exercise is a great way of preventing or delaying that. To me, I have a lot of tough days, long days, and I feel so much better if I start or end my day with some form of activity. So tonight, I'm going to go to the stairs, the Shadok stairs, in about 20 minutes from now. And so anybody wants to come join, I'll be walking up and down. And you can go at your own pace, and I'd be glad to share a few laughs with you along the way. So please come out. We try to come out on Mondays and Wednesdays, and sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't. But you can find your pace, and I'm enjoying this phase of life right now. As I get older, I think fitness is harder to achieve, but more important to achieve. I'll remind you that this is something that's been undervalued. If you want an antidepressant, if you want to prevent falls, you want to treat arthritis, you want to prevent cancer, you want to prevent heart disease, for every 1 MET in increase in activity, mortality from cardiovascular events falls by 10%. This is a great thing to do. I just noticed I have some vitamins for seniors. And vitamins for seniors, the best thing to do is buy any vitamin you want, take it for a 10-minute walk, 100-minute walk, then put the pills away. The vitamins really provide you little protection, but the activity will probably provide you a lot more. So thank you for sharing that. And whether or not you want to go with Participation Canada, if you want to go with your next door neighbor, do something and surround yourself with your so-called entourage. And I'm very lucky to bless with so many young people that make me better. So thank you. I'm also very thank you to my wife and family who really make it easy for me to exercise, and they love to exercise as well. It's a religion in our house. I hope it's a religion in your house. Daniel, what's your thoughts?
No, this is a fantastic webinar by Haley and the team. I think what really sort of stuck out to me the most out of all the stuff that you've talked about is just finding like an accountability buddy, because it is tougher, definitely. You do need to put in more effort in the winter time to continue the physical activity. Doesn't mean that you should stop, but you will need to put in more effort. So finding someone to hold yourself accountable, like my friend and I, we go to the gym together like 3 to 4 times a week, and I feel like if I didn't go with him, I wouldn't have as much motivation, and just sort of feeling accountable to my friend, and just uh, setting a time that we're both going to go to the gym throughout the week. I think really helps me keep in a particular routine and keep my physical activity levels up. So that's my personal tip for everyone, is just finding someone to do some physical activity with as well. It goes a long way.
Well put. I want to thank all the people, especially Dino, who keeps reminding me. He says, I don't look like a 60-something-year-old guy. He's kind of nice. He tones down his squash game with me and comes out and keeps me going. And so special thanks to Dino and everybody at the club. And I thank everybody. And I thank you also, too, for the exercise that you're going to add to your life. It really adds quality of life. Just be careful. When you learn about, you can fall. So, when you go outside, wear proper shoes. Be careful. If you need a walking device, use a walking device. Let's just do something. Haley and anybody else, any special concluding remarks from anybody? I know Carol's joined us. Thank you, Carol. Any thoughts from anybody?
Yeah, I think a big thing, echoing Daniel's point there, with being accountable, and just even if you are accountable with yourself, I always find that writing something down and maybe sticking it on like your calendar, or your fridge, or somewhere that you can see every single day, and just being like, I'm going to do this for exercise today. It really keeps me reminded that I need to make it a priority in my life. So that's another suggestion you can also do to keep yourself accountable as well.
And I have to give a special thanks for Mike, who keeps encouraging me to do these triathlons. I think he's was in 9 events this year, and he medaled in 6 of them. I'll medal. I did 1 event this year, and I'll medal for being in towards the last place. But I thank that, and you know, there's so many things to try, and I think you're right. Having other people doing it with you is great. So and thank you all for trying. Get mad at yourself for not trying. If you want to just go back on the rocker in your life, that's fine. I still have a lot of living left. I know I have dementia in my family. I know I have diabetes in my family. I know I have heart disease in my family. So far, we can talk about how demented I am, but right now I think I'm able to do a lot and help a lot. So I hope I can do that for a long time. And I thank all these young people, all my office staff, and all the people that we serve. But please be healthier. Please add activity. I see Carol's on there as well, and you know, Carol's joined us for our mindfulness group, and we had a nice discussion yesterday. Jerry, and Hannah just lead this group, and they made me a better person. I think yesterday we talked about on how to become more, not resilient is the word, but how to develop inner strengths, and that was really a great undertaking. Then we had discussions afterwards, so please join us. On Tuesdays we have our weight loss crew, and what a great discussion that we have, and great group. We do have a Facebook page as well, and is that I don't know why more people don't participate. It's just it's really a nice feeling. Carol, do you want to say anything about anything today at all? Carol, you have to unmute yourself. You're muted. Oh, I guess Carol's not going to say anything, but Carol is really an active participant in our group, and I thank her so much for her participation. I thank everybody for participating. I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful evening, and I'll be at the Chinook stairs within 20 minutes to half an hour. Have a great night, everyone. Carol, do you want to say anything at all, or she's okay? So we can't hear you, Carol, tonight, but that's okay. I want to thank everybody for their participation and their activity-wise. Have a great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.